Okay, so let's say I'm going to create this table here. Okay, now we have this table here. What is the name of the table is products table, and it is having the identity column as a product ID. Then we have some other columns like product code, product name, category ID. Okay, I would say here category name as of now. Okay, and it is like backend.
We have to create this table also.
No, I will just go through and then you can see. Okay, so this table we are having, like almost all the columns are not null column we are having, and let's say I'll make some of the column as nullable column, so we can check how we can modify this. Okay, so this table I'm going to create now. We don't have any constraint as of now. Okay, and it is created, and now let me try to insert some data into this table. Okay, and values. Product ID, no need to pass the column product ID because it is an identity column, right? So I'll just go with product code. So product code is like, let's say, what kind of product code we can have. Say it is an electronics. Okay, so 1001 I'm giving. And then product name we are having, I'll just mention this as, say, I think I was having some set queries for it. Yeah. Okay, so just take this, insert queries, and we'll try to insert the data.
That product ID gonna be inserted because it's a worker with the
Right, because it is identity column. Product ID is an integer.
yeah.
I'm passing product name, not product ID.
Oh, okay.
Product ID is already taken care by that which column? Identity column. So we don't need to pass the value for that, right? This is electronics. Smartphone is again electronics category. Office chair, let's say it is an furniture. T-shirt, let's say it is a category as clothing. And sequence guide, it is an category as like, let's say, study material. Okay, so these are the four records I'm having. As of now, I'm just going to insert the record number one.
Parameter spelling is wrong.
Sorry, your voice is something like, sorry, can you repeat it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I was just pointing out line number 25. The furniture is spelled wrong. It's not a big deal, but just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so as of now, I'm just going to insert the record number one here. Okay, null value created date. So one record is inserted here, and we could see the data. So let's start from this table. Okay, so record number one is inserted here. Okay, though it is started with 1002. Why? Because first time we ran the insert command and it was failed. Though it was failed, the identity was generated for that. So it is started with 100. Oh, I think no, it is starting value is 1001. We have to, yeah, it is failed and it is like next value is generated for it. Okay. All other values like product code, product name we are having, category we are having, price, stock quantity, manufacturing date, created date. Okay. Now I found like I have already created the table. Okay, but I don't have any constraints, so there is a chance like I will be ending up with inserting the wrong data. Okay, which means I can have the same product code for different product IDs. Okay, so let's say I'm trying to insert same record once again. Okay, and I'm trying to insert the same product as well. Okay, there is no change. I'm trying to insert everything same, and I would be able to insert that data. That means the product is same. Okay, but I could see the product code is different for it. Okay, it should not be happening, right? So one product is there under same category. Laptop is there under electronics category. So price is again same. Everything is same, but the product code is different here. Even the product ID is also different. So this should not happen. So I get to know like the table is already created, but I don't have any constraints on it. Okay, so either way we are having is we can recreate the table by dropping the existing table, or another way is we can add the constraint in an existing table. So we have seen yesterday how to create the constraints while creating the table itself. Okay, now I found like we are having this table created, but I missed to add the primary key for this table. Let's say primary key for this table. Okay, then product code we are having. Let's say it is not null already there, so we should be good here. Let's say product name is. I wanted to have some product name. Okay, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't like product name should not be null. Okay, even category. Every product should be categorized. So it also should have the not null. Okay, then price. I wanted to add the check constraint here. Okay, price should not be equal to 0. It should be always greater than 0. Okay, then stock quantity. Let's say I wanted to have this quantity as a what we say. It should be like a default some stock quantity, or we can check. It should be also again greater than 0 stock quantity. Okay, product code, I wanted to make this as a unique. Okay, I don't want any duplicate product code here. I wanted to have a unique product code. Then manufacturing date, it also should be not null. And created date, I wanted to mark this as a default. Okay, I would like to add one more column called active, whether the product is active or not. Okay, is active, and wanted to have this data type as bit, and again this also wanted to mark this default to 1. So I wanted to mark this as a default 1 and this as a default get date. So these all changes I wanted to do into a existing table. Okay, so how I can do that? So first we will check with not null, adding not null constraint. Okay, so to add the not null constraint, we don't have any separate syntax. Okay, so you know like how we alter the column, right, from a table. So during alteration of the column, we can just mention not null there, because if we mention, if we did not mention anything, by default it will be the nullable column, right? So for constraints as well, if you wanted to add the not null constraint, there is no separate syntax we are having for it. We just need to mention the column name, and then we need to mention it is a not null. So what are the columns I wanted to have not null? These two, and even manufacturing data as well. So I'll take product name. So what is the syntax we're having? Alter table. Table name is products. Okay, and then alter column. We have a column called product name. Okay, and the data type is cat20. Sorry, cat100. And currently it is a null. I just need to mention this as a not null. So with this, we will be changing the constraints on the column, okay, from null to not null, okay, like adding the not null constraints on this column. Same way we can do for other things as well, like category name. Category name. Okay, so I'll add for the product name here. It is completed successfully. Let me just add for this manufacturing data as well. Okay, we will see one example with a negative scenario as well. What will happen? Manufacturing date, and I just wanted to mention this as a not null. Okay, three columns we were having which were null, and we are just making those as a not null. Now we have executed this command to modify the data type to not null. Okay, now let's say I'm inserting one more record into the table with this product code. Okay, it will be the same again, and I'm trying to insert this value as a null here. Null is for manufacturing date. Okay, I'm inserting this record. One row is affected, and we could see there is a null value into the manufacture date. Okay, now before that, I will just execute this command to modify the data type of this category name. Okay, and now I will try to insert change the data type of this manufacture date from by adding the constraints to not null. Okay, I'm not changing the data type. I'm just adding the not null constraint. Okay, when I execute this, it will throw the error. Okay, why it is throwing the error now? It is saying cannot insert the null value into the column manufacturing date. Table 1030, database is 1030 DBO products table. Column does not allow the null and update fails here. We are not doing any update. We are not doing any insert into the table. Then still why it is failing?
Because we have null
Because you
data in the
already
table.
have a null value.
Correct. So we already have a null value into the table. So if you see the data, okay, if you see this data here, we are already having a null value into that manufacturing date column. Okay, so in case SQL Server allows you to run this statement successfully, that means adding the not null constraints, which means we are saying this column is a not null column, but there is already data which is having a null value. So both are like violation, right? We are saying one column is not null, and at the same time we are storing the null value in it. Okay, that's the reason SQL Server is saying like you cannot update the value or cannot insert the null value into this table, because if you are trying to define this as a not null, there should not be existing values as well violating the constraint. It is not for only not null, any constraint. Okay, if you are trying to add any new constraint, okay, into the existing table, the data inside the table should be satisfying the rules for that constraints. Okay, so let me let's say I'm adding the check constraints for price is greater than 0. So I should not have any existing products whose price is equal to 0. Else it will not allow me to add that check constraint. Okay, so like this we have to validate the data first. If you are having any data, either you can modify this data like using update command, or you can delete the entire record and then try to add the constraint later on. Okay, so I'll just do this. Delete where product ID is equal to 1004. Okay,
But
now I'm
excuse me, sir.
yes.
But what if we have like manufacturing date, like we have the like record inserted like more than 100 times null. So you have to insert that record again.
Right. Either you can update those records with some unique date or some other date and then add the constraints. Okay, or you have to delete those records. Anything you can do.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, let me delete this record and now try to alter this column with not null constraint. Now it will allow me to do that because there are no existing record with the null value, right? So now these three columns we have marked as a not null column. Okay. So this is how we will add the check constraint. Okay. Now, like yesterday we have seen while adding the primary key, okay, even though this is an identity column, if you turn off the identity and we will do the identity insert on, okay, and we insert the same product ID, we will be able to insert that. So even though this employee ID, sorry, this product ID is an identity column, I wanted to mark this as a primary key. So I will not have any duplicate records there. Okay, so to add the primary key, adding PK, we have the syntax. Okay, so we mentioned alter table. Now, whenever we are trying to adding the constraints, modifying the data type, okay, all these things, what we are doing is we are making change to the structure of the data. Sorry, database table, right? So we are making the change to the structure. Okay, we are not doing anything related to data. We are modifying uh, the structure. Okay, we are defining some rule on the structure, like this kind of data should go, this kind of data should not go. Okay, so adding the constraint on an existing table needs to alter the table. Okay, that is the reason we are altering the table. Alter table, like I'll just go with generic first. So we have to give the table name. Okay, then we have to mention add constraint. Now we are adding the constraint, so we need to mention the add constraint, and then we have to give the name to that constraint. So anything we are adding, we have to give the name. So we know constraint name, when we were creating the table, by default it was given by the SQL server. Okay, but when we are adding the constraint as a user, as developer, we need to give some unique name there. Okay, then we need to mention primary key keyword, and in bracket we have to give the column name on which you are trying to create the primary key constraint. Okay, so this is the syntax for adding the primary key. Okay, now just to replace our values with the same syntax. Okay, alter table. What is the name of the table? It is a product table. Now, name of the constraint. Okay, the standard way of giving the name to any constraint I'm giving here. Okay, so normally when we are adding the constraint, every organization will have its own naming convention, how it should be given the name to any object. It may be table, procedure, view, function, or constraints, columns. Okay, but the giving name to the constraint is near about common everywhere. Sorry. Okay, giving name to the constraint is near about common in every organization. Okay, so we'll start with the constraint type. Constraint type. Okay, then we'll give the table name. Okay, and then we'll give the column name. So this is how we define the constraint. So constraint type is like, let's say for primary key we mention PK. Okay, on which table we are having. So that we will mention products and on which column. Okay, so this is how we follow the naming convention for any database constraint. Okay, if it is like unique key, so you just mention UK or UQ. Anything is fine. Then it is foreign key, we just mention it is FK. Okay, if it is a default, we just mention DF. Okay, and for check constraint, we just mention it is CK. Okay, again, this is not required to have this kind of names only, but this is a standard way in every organization to give the name to the constraint. The constraint name can be anything. If you just write ABC, it will create the constraint with a name as a ABC. Okay, but why we are following this? So by looking into the constraint, we should know what is that constraint is. Okay, it is like PK on which column, on which table. So we should be able to read that very easily. By just reading, we should understand that easily. That's why we are having a standard naming convention. Okay, even though we are having just A, we are having XYZ, anything is fine as a name of the constraint. Okay, so I'm just giving PK products and product ID. This is the constraint name I'm giving. Primary key, and what is the column name we are having? So we are going to create the constraint on product ID. Okay, so like currently we don't have any primary key defined on this products table. Okay, even there are no any keys as well. Okay, so let me execute this, and when we execute this, commands completed successfully, and I will just refresh this folder. We should see a key is created, and the name is whatever name we have given. PK products product ID. Okay, so this is how we add the primary key on a table. Okay, alter table, name of the table, constraint name, add constraint, name of the constraint, primary key, and then column name that you wanted to create a primary key on. Okay, what if this table was having already a duplicate values? Whether it will allow me to do that? If the table is already having a duplicate product IDs or null product IDs, whether the primary key can be created on it?
No.
No.
No, because the data is already violating the rules of the primary key. Okay, so in that case, you need to update the data to make it unique, make it not null, or you have to delete the records and then add the constraint out there. Okay. Now next is like adding a unique key or unique constraint. Okay, now we wanted to have this product code as a unique value. Okay, it should be a unique value we are saying. So now the syntax is alter table. Okay, this is common for every constraint. We have to give the name of the table, we have to mention add constraint, and then we have to mention the name of the constraint. So up to here, everything is common for all the constraints like check, default, foreign key, primary key. Okay, it is common for all the types of constraints. Now from here, your syntax for adding the constraints will change. Okay, so I wanted to add this constraint for unique key. Now what I will just mention, we have to give the name here, and then after that, we just need to mention unique, and then which column you wanted to have a unique key. Okay, column name. Okay, so this is how you create a unique constraint on a column. Okay, let's just replace this with our actual table. So I just mentioned this as a UQ, and now I wanted to create this on a product code. So I'll just change this column here. I'll take the same column here as well by replacing primary key with unique. Okay. Now, if I try to add this constraint, it should throw the error because we already have, oh, it is not having a duplicate product. So we should be good here. Okay. So it should, like we should be able to add the constraint without any issue because I don't see any duplicate values in product code. But if there was a duplicate value, okay, so it might throw the error, but we don't have any duplicate. So we should be able to create the constraint easily. Let's refresh this. And we could see now the this constraint is created here. Okay, so this is how we create a unique key constraint. Now we already have the unique key constraint. So now if you try to insert the same record once again, it should throw the error now. Earlier it was we were able to insert that record, but now it is throwing the error. Okay, it is saying cannot insert duplicate key in table products, and the duplicate key value is 1EL1002. Okay, so that is a duplicate key value we have. Okay, this is about adding the unique constraints. Then move to the next constraint, adding check constraint. Okay, so check I wanted to add on two columns like primary key, price column and stock quantity column, and both should be greater than 0. Okay, so I'll take the standard syntax first. Add alter table. Okay, add constraint, constraint name, and then we have to mention a check and in bracket condition. Okay, condition example I will just see. I'll just give here column name. Okay, equal to some value or something like this. Condition can be anything. Okay, so we have wanted to add the condition for is the table name product. Okay, and I just mentioned this. Now it is a check constraint, so I just mentioned it is CK or and it is on products table, and I want to create on price. Yeah, price column. Okay, so price column, and then we have to give the condition here. Check what check I wanted to have. Price is greater than 0. Okay, or we can have like price is not equal to 0. Anything is fine. Okay, so we could have this condition added here. Okay, so I'll just go on price is greater than 0. So this check constraint I'm going to add here. Okay, it is added, and we should see that constraint now under this constraint folder. CK products price. Okay, so this is how we add the check constraint. Okay, if I try to add the constraint check constraint on a what is the table column name product stock quantity. Okay, I wanted to add the constraint on a stock quantity. I'm just mentioning stock quantity is greater than 0. Now when I try to create the constraint like this, but I missed to modify the name of the constraint. Okay, here I wanted to I should have the some different name, but I'm giving the same name as the previous constraint. So when I try to create the constraint with the same name, it will throw the error saying like this object is already present. So whatever the constraint we are having, okay, that is already there into the database. Okay, so it will not allow you to create the duplicate constraint as well, the constraint with the duplicate name. Okay, so our rule is simple. In a database, every object should have a unique name. Okay, and that's how it is failing here to add the constraint for different column. So we should give some unique name to each of the constraint. Then I am trying to add this constraint here, and it is completed successfully. Okay, so we should see the another constraint with stock quantity. Okay, so this condition can be anything. We can write stock quantity greater than 0, or if you wanted to have the check constraint on a category, and category should be all like only electronics, clothing. Okay, so you can mention stock quantity in electronics and clothing. So like that you can mention, you can add the condition here, anything like if you are adding the constraint on a salary column, so salary should be between 10,000 to 90,000. So you can add the between clause as well here. So whatever the condition you are having, that you can add here. Okay, if your column is numeric column, okay, you should not have that in the quotes, the values. But if your column is a string column or date column, whatever the value you are giving, that value should be mentioned in the quotes. Okay, like this. Okay, this is the check constraint, and the last one like adding default constraint. Okay, so for adding the default constraint, the syntax like alter table, add constraint, then we have the constraint name. Okay, and now we have to give the default keyword. Okay, and the value here, value for, then we need to mention the column name. Okay, we have seen this yesterday. We were failed while giving the same syntax for like adding constraint during table creation. Okay, but there we don't need to mention this for and all. Okay, but here while adding the constraint after table creation, adding default constraint after table creation, we need to mention the syntax like this. Okay, constraint name, then default keyword, whatever the default value we are having. Okay, for which column you are going to add that constraint, default constraint, that you need to mention. Okay, so for example, in our case, we wanted to have the default for these two column. Okay, so I wanted to have the default for this column. So this is the table. Now this is the constraint name. I just replace this CK with the DF for default. I'm replacing the column stock quantity with created date. Okay, and created date column should be having the value as a get date. So get date is a current date used for current date. But instead of that, if you wanted to have some default date, you can give the default date like let's say 01/01/1999. Okay, any default value you can give. Okay, but I wanted to have this as a today's date. So today's date in the sense whenever a new record is inserted, that new like that day's date should be inserted here. So I'm using get date function here to get the current date time value. Okay, same way we can add the constraints for is active as well. Okay, I'm just replacing the name, and default value is 1 for is active column. Okay, so this is how we can add the constraints on a table. So I'll just run both of them. Default constraint could not create constraint or index. Okay. In the table is invalid for creating a. Let's check what are the constraints it is created. It is created on a default for a created date. Okay, I think bit data type we have chosen, right? Let me alter this column first to not null. Oh, the table itself is not, column itself is not added. So first I need to add the column. Okay. I think column was missing, that's why it was throwing the error. Okay, so there is a constraint added for the default as well. So like this, we can add all the types of constraints. Okay, I'll show you how to add the foreign key constraint as well during the foreign key talk tomorrow. Okay, how to add that foreign key and how the foreign key can be referenced between the two tables. So that we will talk in tomorrow's session. Okay, so yeah, any question on this? How to add the constraint on the existing table?
I have a question.
So this is how we can add the constraints on an existing table. Okay, by mentioning the constraint name, so that we can identify this constraint is about what. Okay, on which table, on which column, and what type of constraint it is, CKDF or something. Okay. One more thing we can do is like yesterday we have seen this one. We have created these constraints here. Okay, but we when we create this the table like this, we saw like the constraint was created, but the name of the constraint was automatically defined by the SQL server. So can we give our name, like name from the developer while creating the table itself? Okay, you got it right. So we have created the constraint yesterday, but whenever the new constraint is created, like unique, check, primary, or default, there was a name defined by the SQL server. Okay, but can we do that? Like while creating the table, we are adding the constraint there itself. Okay, and we are defining the name as well for that constraints.
I think yes, we can update the name.
Okay, so yeah, there is a there is separate syntax for it. While creation of the table itself, we can give the name as well to the constraint. Okay, so I will add that here. Okay, so we have this products table. It is already created, so now it is showing a red line. Okay. So now let's say I'll just write a syntax for drop table so we can eliminate this error out here. Okay, so this is the table we are having, and now I wanted to add the primary key constraint, unique constraint. So normally what we will do is we'll just mention this as a primary key, and when we create the constraint with the primary key like this, it will create the constraint with some unique
Code,
name that is a system generated name.
like kind of code,
Right, but what if I wanted to have the name to be given by myself to that constraint?
PK, something like that.
Okay, all right. So in that case, we have to mention all the constraints. Okay, like instead of mentioning unique here, or instead of mentioning check here, okay, check price is greater than 0. So instead of mentioning the constraints out here, we need to mention all the constraints at the end of the last column, like after the last column itself. Okay, so let me show you. Then there we can define the name to the constraints. Okay, so we have all this, and now I wanted to add the constraint here. So after last column, we can just give the constraints, all the comma separated constraints. So comma I'm giving. Now I want to add the first as a primary key. Okay, so what I will do is I just mention here primary key.
Primary key.
Constraint we need to mention first. Okay, then we have to give the name to the constraint. Products. Okay, products, and it is on product ID.
For product ID.
Okay, then we need to mention primary key and then column.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is how we define the constraint at the end. Then second, we just mention about the same constraint. Okay, I'm having these constraints on a unique key constraint. So UQ, and on product code, I just mentioned this as a unique, and the column is how you mention unique and then column name, right? Okay, then next, again, constraint. I just mentioned this as a CK check constraint. Okay, check I should have on a price table, price column, and check price is greater than 0. Okay, so this is how you can add the constraints at the end of the table. Okay, and if you create the table now, you will see these constraint name, not the system generated names here. Okay. So instead of like in front of every column, you mark the constraint at the end. Okay. And there you can give the names to your constraint by your own, like as per your standard naming convention process. Okay.
One more question, sir. Like
Mhm.
when you mention like primary key or unique key in the table, and you doesn't like it doesn't contain a primary name, like primary product ID and products primary key for the keys constraints. And after that, when you like create the table, can you like rename it again?
The constraint you are saying?
Yes. Like
Yeah,
constraints, can we
can
name it
repeat that.
again in from the constraints?
Yeah, rename we can do. Okay. So for renaming, either you can just go here and you can right click and rename here. Okay, that is one thing. And another we are
Okay.
having is using the
This
system
procedure.
procedure. Yeah, system procedure sp underscore rename. Okay,
Okay.
that we will see later. But yeah, rename we can do for any constraint, like how we can do for the table column. So same way we can do for the constraint as well.
Okay, so we can do in both ways. Either we rename it or just like write a query about it.
Right. You can do in a both way. Either you can go with the Object Explorer or you can go with the query window.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Or else, if you wanted to have that created without renaming it, you need to drop the existing one and recreate it. Okay. So to drop the any constraint, okay, dropping any constraint. Okay, any constraint in the sense apart from not null, because for not null we have some different syntax. For not null we will not have any name to the constraint, right? So for not null it is like removing the, it is altering the column every time. But for dropping the constraint, the syntax is quite same for every constraint. We just need to mention drop constraint and give the name to the constraint. That's how you
Okay.
drop the constraint. Okay. Alter table
Okay. It's
dbo
same
dot
like the
products.
column.
Right.
Just
It's same like the
add the
column.
just add the
Just instead of
constraint.
column, we are dropping the constraint. So we will mention drop constraint. And
Okay.
then we just give the name of the constraint like this. Okay. It
Sure.
is not necessary to have the square bracket. I have just copied, dragged and dropped here. So it is coming as a by default square bracket. Okay. You can
Okay.
have this as it is.
Okay.
So any constraint you need to drop, you can just write the syntax like alter table, name of the table, drop constraint, and give the constraint name here.
Sir, in 2022 SSMS, do we have a rename features added on this, like alter table DVU product, rename constraint, the what is the old name, and
No,
then
no,
with the new name?
no. In SQL Server, we don't have the rename anywhere in any version. Okay, to rename your table, you just have to write a SP called SP rename. Okay, and then we have to give the old name here. See here, it is giving me the prompt. What are the required parameters for this SP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first is the object name. Object name will
Okay.
be also our old
DVU
name.
dot product. Okay.
Okay, old name. Then second parameter is a new name. So what new name you wanted to give here? Okay, new name. And third is again we are having the type of the object. Okay, so if you are trying to rename the constraint, if you are trying to rename the column, you just need to mention their column or constraint like that or object. Okay,
But
so
it's defined for a table, am I right, sir?
for
So what is the
table we
old?
don't need to give the, yeah, for table we don't need to give the type here. Okay, so for table you just need to give the table name. Okay, and just need to give the call like new name as a products data something. If you execute this, okay, it is saying like it will just give you the warning. Changing any part of an object name could break the scripts and the stored procedure. Because if this the table with this name is referenced in any other
Sorry.
object like procedure or function, it will impact that, because now if I try to access the table, this table is not exist. Why? Because we have already renamed this
Okay.
table with some different name. Okay, so that's why it will give you the warning saying renaming any object could break the stored procedures or any other scripts. Okay, so this is how we rename the
And
table.
how do we rename the constraint?
So for constraint, we need to give the just mention this back, rename it back to the original state. Okay, it is not required, but we have created with this, so I don't want to miss it. Okay, so for constraint, the syntax is again with the same. If you go sp rename, we write, and then old name. Now, old name, to give the old name, we have to have the table name. Sorry, it is the table name dot. So we are specifying in this table, I'm having this constraint. Okay, now this constraint I want to rename with the new name called just I'm removing this underscore here, product price. Okay, I want to rename with this name, and the type, this is a object. Okay, for constraint we just need to mention this is an object. So if you execute this, now see here, is that constraint GK price, right? So here, okay, we are having underscore between products and price. So when I execute this, okay, it should rename product name is ambiguous or the claim object type is wrong.
Is that
Next
a
one
table?
is
Am I right? Object type is a table.
object name.
No,
is
I think object you have to like insert a type.
No, type it is in the first parameter, it is right. Object name is ambiguous or the claimed object type is wrong. Okay.
Can you provide the table there then?
No, I think we just need to specify the constraint here.
Either instead of object you can write constraints.
For constraint, whether do we need to pass the object type itself. Let me execute up to these two parameters because third is an optional parameter. Type was input as null. Okay. Object type is going to be as a null, so it is saying like it should be not null.
I think it's understanding like it's the column, not the constraint.
But no, for column, we just need to specify that as a column. So for column, let's see how it will work for column. So product price is a column. I wanted to have this column name as a product price. Instead of just price, I just wanted to have this as a product price. And then for column, we need to specify this as a column here. So then only it will change the name. So first the dependencies. Okay, so there is already a constraint on this product, so it is not able to rename. Any column we are having where we don't have any constraint, product name. Changed. See the column is changed or not from product name to P name. It is changed. Okay, so for column, we are mentioning column as object type. Mm,
We have to give
You
a
can
constant, otherwise.
constraint. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
CK products price, CK.
Instead of writing object, I think we can write constraint.
I don't think it will work, but let's try. No. Constraint is
No,
not recognized
unrecognized.
object. So what kind of object we can specify this constraint here? Constraint is already there.
Or maybe you have to like put there the value of the check, like greater than or the less than. Type?
No, type we have to check, right? So what is the type of this object that we are trying to rename?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any system table we are having? Check with the online.
Yeah, you were right, sir. There should be an object.
Oh, you checked it?
Hmm.
But still it is failing, right? Because object we mostly use for table view, procedures, functions, constraints, like all these
Order
Or
table.
maybe, sir,
And
the
order. Okay. Either you may change the constant name and execute it again, sir.
object name. For column we use column.
Yeah, sir.
The
I think
object
you may
we use.
change, sir. Better to change the other constant name instead of the change you made it there.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah,
instead
we
of CK,
specify
you can write
column.
like any other,
Yeah,
like check or
we
CHK or
specify
something
column
like
for
that.
renaming the column, table, index. Okay, let's check with some different constraint and we'll see. Hmm, let's try.
Maybe, and the new name you can add CHK in check.
Can be anything. Let's see. Just add this as a CHK and specify the object type as a just object.
Object.
Hmm.
Why is saying object is wrong?
Okay, let me see and fix this. What is the issue? We have to debug, but we use object for this constraints normally, but it is failing. So I need to look at why it is failing. For yeah, here it is given. So this is used for objects including constraints, user tables, stored procedures, inline table valued function, rules. So for all these objects, if you want to rename, we use third parameter as an object. If you want to rename the column, we use third parameter as a column, like we did here. Okay. If you want to rename an index, so we mention third parameter as an index. Okay, so that is how this is how it will work, but it is not working. But yeah, let me see why it is
Can
not
we
working.
not add like the SP rename at the end of like where we're keeping the object? Can we use that SP rename again?
No, we cannot do that. This is the standard way to execute the procedure. We have to give the name to the procedure and we have to pass the parameters there. Okay, anyway,
Okay.
I'll see, I'll look for it. What is the error and why it is causing? We'll see. Okay, we have some time, so yeah, you can just try to create this table. Okay, and try to insert
Yes,
some
sir. I
data.
think you didn't. I think you didn't executed this create table. That's why the earlier.
But
So
I
you
did not
renamed
drop the
it.
table.
Yeah. That's why it's saying the issues. I think so.
No, but I did not drop the table either. The table is already created, right?
But you did a rename on that.
No, I renamed it back to the same name.
Oh, then I don't know.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you explain one more time as to why we were renaming the constraints? I did not understand that.
No, why we were renaming? Because there will be a system generated name you will be having initially. Okay, if you miss to add the constraint or you are added the constraint while creation of the table itself like this. Okay, so if you see on the this customers table,
Or maybe like we cannot
we
rename
have the
the
constraints. Okay, we
constraint
have
so
the
we can
constraint
drop and then add
with
again.
some system generated name. Yeah. So it is a system generated name we are having. Okay. So you want to have this some unique name. Okay. With following the organization standard for the naming convention. So you want to rename it. So that's why we were looking how we can rename it.
And do you rename it while creating the table?
No, while creating, we can just give some new name, right? While creating the table, we can give the name as we like. Okay. If we miss to give the name as expected, then we only rename. Okay.
So first we have to drop the table and then do it like this again. Like we have to
No,
start.
this is another example I was given. Okay, for renaming, you don't need to drop the table. For renaming, you can use this SP or rename, or you can simply right click here and rename. Okay, this is just another way I was showing you while creating the table itself, how you can give the name to the constraints that you are creating.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
So like we are renaming to make it like user friendly because the system generated is more harder to read or use.
Yes, it will be quite challenging to understand what the constraint is and all. That's why we normally go with the user defined name or the standard name as per the organization.
Okay, and one more thing.
Yes.
Is there any way we can rename the database?
Yes, we can rename the database as well. The same SP we have to use, and in the object we need to mention as a database.
Also,
See,
we can choose just rename and then rename that.
see for database, you just need to mention the third parameter as a database here. Okay, you can do that. Okay, I'm just creating one table out here with order details as a name. Okay, and I wanted to store the details of the order like order ID and next is like product ID. Okay, and the quantity for that particular order. Okay, for quantity for that product within the order. Okay, so now what is the chance like with this we should have the order ID as a unique like a table can table should have a unique order ID inserted into that, right? Or we should not have any duplicate orders there, right? But
Yeah.
there is chance like one order can have multiple products,
Yes.
right? So let me if I'm adding the order ID as a primary key, so that is not my correct way to add the primary key, right? Because
Yes.
one order can have multiple products. So let's say one row
It
we
will
have
now allow
inserted
to
with,
insert duplicate record.
right. So when we insert order ID 1 and product ID 2 and quantity for that product is 10 quantity I have byte. So this is my first row. Second order I'm having again product ID 2 and 5 quantity is 5. Okay. Then in the third order, I'm having two products ordered, product ID 1 with 10 quantity and again third order only, product ID as a 2 and again 10 quantity. So if my order ID is an primary key, this will throw the error, right?
Yep.
Because we are trying to insert the duplicate order ID here.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a valid scenario only, right? In the same order, we can order multiple products, right? So what I need to do is I need to create the primary key on two columns. Is it possible to create primary key on the two columns?
Yeah.
Can it be two column for primary key?
Think.
While looking into the primary key, what we have seen is primary key can be created one per table, right? We mentioned like only one primary key per table, right?
Yes.
Which means, see here, when we create two check constraint, it was allowed to create two check constraint. That means check constraints can be
Two
uh,
multi.
More than one, right? More
Mm,
than one unique key constraints or sorry, unique key constraint. Yesterday we have created multiple unique key constraint as well. So it is allowing us to create a multiple unique key constraint. But when it comes to primary key, let me try to create the constraint like this, primary key, and this is also a primary key. Okay, it will not allow me to create this. Okay, it is throwing the error. It is saying like cannot add multiple primary key constraints to the table order details. Okay,
Yes.
so when we try to add the primary key on a separate table, okay, while creating the table like this, it will throw the error because it will create one primary key, another column product ID. It will create one primary key. So that will be a two primary keys, and on in a table it is not allowed to create a multiple primary keys. We can have only one primary key. So like this the situation is coming here. Okay, we can have the product ID 3, order ID 3 and product ID 2. Okay, but yeah, definitely we should not have the entry like this. Okay, order ID and product ID is same again and quantity is same. So this is a duplicate. Okay, in one order the product should be repeated only once. Product ID 1, product ID 2. Okay, once again product ID 2 we should not have. Instead of that, if you want to order the same product ID, you should increase the quantity to 20. Okay, but the order like should not have the same product repeated. Okay, so in that case, now this should be considered as a duplicate. Okay, and not this should be considered a duplicate because here product ID is different, though the order ID is same. Okay, so like this, I wanted to create a primary key on a two columns. Okay, so the table is already created. Okay, so I have to add the constraint now. So I write alter table, name of the table, add constraint. Okay, and we mention primary key. We have to give the name to the constraint that I missed out here. Order details. I'll just mention PK order details, and okay, I will just mention both of the name order ID
ID.
and product ID. Okay, because I wanted to create constraint on both of these columns. Okay, so now while creating the constraint, I can mention both of these columns here. Okay, both of these columns here I can mention. Now, how many constraints will be created? Constraint will be only one.
One.
Okay, but in that constraint, included columns are two. And
Constant
our
one.
definition says, our definitions does not says like we cannot have the primary key on the multiple columns. It is saying we can have only one primary key per table. It can have on multiple columns. Okay, that is what we are trying to create here. It will create only one primary key, but that cannot define. Okay, it is all null columns. So first we need to alter the table to have this as a not null. So instead of adding the constraint, I will drop the table and I will just add this not null. Let me drop it and we create it. And now add the constraint here. Now it will add the constraint, and that constraint, now the constraint will be only one, but that is on two tables ordered, sorry, two columns. So there is only one constraint. Okay. Now if I try to insert the record here, it will insert this record, it will insert this record, it will insert this as well. Even the order ID is duplicate, it will insert this record as well. But when I try to insert the next record, it will fail here. Because now the definition of primary key is it should be unique records. It should be like unique values in every entry,
Row.
right? Every row. Now we have the primary key on the two columns. So uniqueness will be checked on the combination of two values. Okay, so now 1, 2, first row is having this value. So second row is also having this value, even though the order quantity is some different. But our primary key is on order ID and product ID. So if I try to insert the same value once again for both of this column, it will fail. But if I have some product ID 1 and order ID 1 and product ID 4, 3, it will allow me to insert with a duplicate order ID, because now the duplicateness will be checked based on the combination of values in two columns, not a single column. Okay. So this type of primary key we call as a composite. Okay, we call this as a composite primary key, or just we call as a composite key, composite primary key.
Where we use this kind of thing in real life?
Right. Okay, good question actually. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is a real like example, okay, where we are having the, we are working for an like companies like Amazon, they wanted to store the order details. Okay, so in the same order, they can have multiple products ordered. Okay, another example, let's say we are having claims data. Okay, and in the claims table, we have the claim detail, like claim level information. So here claim ID should be unique, right? It should not be repeated. One claim should be like once the claim ID is assigned to a particular claim, it cannot be assigned to different person or different like claim for the same person as well. It should be unique. But now we are having a table called claim details. Now in this claim detail, it will have the information about the details, a detailed information about the claim. So this is, let's say, claim ID 101. Okay, in my claim detail table, I can have a claim ID 101 and the line number 1 for that claim. This is, let's say, cholera. Okay, then for the same claim, okay, during the same hospitalization, I have taken treatment for another disease. Okay, let's say during my hospitalization, I got to have this typhoid as well. Okay, so one claim can have multiple lines in it. Okay, and each line will define a treatment taken or the disease for which you have taken the treatment for. This is a real life scenario. Okay, where we are having the prime. Now, in the claims table, you cannot have the two lines for the same disease. So this will be now duplicate. Okay, this and this is not duplicate. This is unique. As per the primary key, though the claim ID is same, the sequence, or we can say the disease number is different. Okay, but this will be the duplicate as per the primary key combination.
Okay.
Okay, so we use these composite keys in real life where you wanted to have the uniqueness checked based on the multiple columns. Okay, so I'll give this table and column, try to insert the data with different values and try to see how it will works. Okay, we know like a table can have a table can have only one primary key. Okay, but a composite primary can contain multiple columns within it. Okay, and when we create a composite primary key, none of the columns should accept the null values, right? So no matter how many columns you are having, okay, so it will not accept the values like this 3 comma null comma 10. No, it will not allow, or it like this, like null comma product ID 2 and order quantity is 10. It will not allow. So any of the columns should not contain the null values, whatever columns we are having in the composite primary key. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what about the primary key. Yeah, this is just explain. Yes.
In that case, like you said, 3232 2010 in the composite primary key. If the order would come like the similar way of one customer ordered the same thing, another customer ordered the same quantity, then how can we insert that one in the table?
But for both the customers, order will not be same, right? Order ID will be different.
Yeah, already.
Right. You are ordering some product ID 1 and 2. I am also ordering the product ID 1 and 2. So you will be saying like we are both are having same product, but our order will not be the same. Right? Your order will have some a different order ID. My order will have some different order ID. Right?
So,
So in that,
sir, when you just mentioned this, you mean that the table can have one primary key and more than one composite key? I mean, composite primary key?
composite key also can be only one, but within a composite key, we
It
can
can
have multiple
contain couple of columns.
Yes. See, primary key, whether it is a simple primary key or whether it is a composite primary key, it can be only one table. Okay. But within this one primary key, we can have multiple columns. That is what.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's for a given table, either it's just a primary key or it's just a composite primary key, right?
Composite primary key.
It
Right.
cannot be both.
No, it cannot be both.
So is this on scenario basis of how we want to use the data?
Yeah, so in that case, we should be the table should not accept the combination of duplicate values like 3232. Okay, it can be only once, but 32. Once again, if you try to insert, it will fail. Okay, we can have 3 3, then we can have 3 4. Okay, 3 5. This all is a unique combination because our column primary key is 2-column combination. So this is unique. This is unique. We know like 3 and 3 is duplicate, but we are not looking for only one column for the duplicateness. It is not only one column primary key, right? It is 2 columns. So we have to look for the combination. So whenever there is a combination is duplicated like this, then we call this as a duplicate record.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just create this table as well whenever you get the time and just try to look how it works, the composite primary key, how it will not allow you to insert the combination of duplicate records. Okay, and try to understand it.